The story of St. Giles.
Subscribe to our channel to receive more content like this.
Let me tell you a story that's been told for centuries. A story about kindness, courage, and a man who chose a life of simplicity and compassion. This is the story of St. Giles, a quiet hero whose life reminds us that doing good doesn't always mean standing in the spotlight. A long time ago, in the 7th century, over 1,300 years ago, there lived a man named Giles. He was born in Athens, Greece, to wealthy and noble parents. From a young age, Giles was different. While others chased money and power, Giles cared more about helping the poor and the sick. After his parents passed away, Giles inherited a fortune. But instead of living a life of comfort and luxury, he gave almost everything he owned to those in need. He believed that true happiness came from helping others, not from owning things. Now, this kind of generosity made Giles well known in his city, but that wasn't what he wanted. He didn't want praise or recognition. So he quietly left Greece and traveled west, eventually finding his way to the forests of southern France. Giles settled deep in the forest, far from cities, crowds, and noise. There, he lived a peaceful, simple life. He prayed, meditated, and lived off what nature provided. He wasn't completely alone, though. He became close to a wild deer that would visit him every day. Over time, the deer grew to trust him, and Giles shared his food with it, often letting it eat from his hand. But the peace didn't last forever. One day, a royal hunting party entered the forest. They were led by the king of the region. Some stories say it was King Wamba of the Visigoths. The hunters spotted the deer and chased it through the woods, not knowing it was Giles's gentle companion. As the deer fled, it ran straight to Giles, who stepped in front of it to protect it. The hunters shot an arrow, but instead of hitting the deer, it struck Giles in the leg. When the hunters reached him, they were shocked to find a wounded holy man living alone in the forest, protecting an animal with his own life. The king was deeply moved by what he saw. He apologized to Giles and offered to bring him to the city for treatment, to reward him with riches, to honor him in court. But Giles refused. He didn't want fame. He just wanted to live in peace and serve God quietly. Even so, the king and his people couldn't forget him. They saw him as a living example of kindness, humility, and self-sacrifice. Eventually, the king helped build a small monastery near Giles's forest, where other people who wanted to live like him could gather. Giles became the leader, or abbot, of this small religious community, teaching by example and continuing his quiet life of prayer and service. Giles died many years later, but his story spread far and wide. Over time, he became known as Saint Giles, one of the most beloved saints in Europe. Many churches were named after him, and he became the patron saint of the poor, the disabled, and those who live with anxiety, people who often feel forgotten or overlooked. And remember the arrow wound he received while protecting the deer? That injury became a powerful symbol, showing that real strength doesn't always look like power or victory. Sometimes strength is found in compassion and standing up for the vulnerable, and in quietly doing what's right, even when no one's watching. The story of St. Giles isn't flashy or dramatic. There are no grand speeches or mighty battles. Instead, it's about a man who walked away from wealth and comfort to live a life of quiet love and service. A man who befriended a wild animal and took an arrow for it. A man who proved that humility can be just as powerful as heroism. In a world that often values fame and noise, St. Giles reminds us of the power of silence, kindness, and quiet courage. And maybe that's a story we all need to hear.